Revenge films.
My name is Denise Fanning, 32 years old, single. Mom said she'll be living with my older brother and his wife, then kicked me out of the house. Before I was kicked out, I added $1,500 to the household to support my family. It's a huge amount. But my father passed away in debt, so I repaid them. When Dad passed away, my brother and his wife demanded an inheritance. But when I explained to them that Dad did not leave anything aside from debt, he said that his expectations were not fulfilled, and he was disappointed. I guess the reason why he didn't mention it anymore was that they were skimming the entire incense offering from the mourners. After Dad passed away, I took care of my mom since I was still living with her. The entire financial foundation of our family was based on my earnings. Mom is not an extravagant spender, but she easily gets deceived. She is weak with sales talk and ends up paying them. There was even a time when she fell for phone scams twice. The debt that Dad left behind was also incurred as a result of my mom becoming a guarantor for an acquaintance. Mom is careless with money that she doesn't even know how much I'm paying every month. She called it menopause and didn't help with the chores, so I had to do everything. Since the funeral, my brother and his wife didn't visit us that much, but when they came to visit for the first time in a while, they saw that there was no indication of the home being ruined, so they thought that actually there's inheritance and we just kept it from them. The truth was that it wasn't an inheritance but my earnings, but my brother used to look down on me since we were young. He was prideful and thought that I'm not earning that much, so he never asked me how much I was earning. Besides, I don't buy branded products, so I look like I didn't earn that much.
My wife and I are going to live with Mom, so get out of here, you shill!
I was surprised by his words, and when I repulsed, the three of them cursed me. They preached to me for 2 hours. It felt like forever. Mom said, "You're a miser who won't even marry. If it weren't for you, I would have a more luxurious life." And my brother said,
I'm supporting my family. Until when are you going to keep on depending on our parents?
And my sister-in-law said, "At 30 years old, you're still depending on your mother? I'm ashamed to have such a sister-in-law." Most wives don't want to live with their in-laws, but why does she want to? At first, that's what I thought, but I immediately realized why. They have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Their income and expenditures are in a precarious situation. When our dad was still alive, my brother used to ask him for help, so they thought that if they lived in a house without rent, they'll have the chores done for them and have their children taken care of too. Their imagination was like heaven on earth. My late father tended to spend rather extravagantly, so all of my brother's SOS disbursements from before his death were my savings. My show-off dad didn't want to say that it was from me, so my brother and his wife thought that there was a hidden inheritance.
It's my duty as the eldest to look after our mother,
he said with a smug look on his face, and my gullible mom fell for it. So stupid. When will she ever learn that there's always something fishy going on whenever my brother says something too good to be true? I was doing my duty as a child to her mother, who stopped working at 65. I did all the housework too. I knew that I was being exploited, but I didn't hate them enough to shake them off. I don't care anymore. They're the ones who said they don't need me. I'll willingly go. Those who said that I depend on my mother, I earn 3 times my brother and his wife combined. There's plenty I want to say. But, well, it is common courtesy to clean up after yourself, so I didn't say anything. I signed a contract for an apartment near work and then left home. When I moved out, I hired movers and brought with me all the stuff and furniture I bought with my earnings. It was fun to see them fuming profusely as the things were carried away before their eyes. Why would I leave what I bought when they kicked me out? Refrigerator, oven, TV, washing machine, and robot vacuum cleaner. I also brought with me the superb mattress bed that I bought when Mom said her back was hurting. I also took the iPhone I bought for Mom and terminated the contract. Also, we had 2 cars, one for my mom and one for me, but I don't use it anymore since I ride the train to work, and I use the company-owned car for work-related use. I knew that my brother and his wife traded in their car, so I took mine with me on purpose. I'm aware that they can't live without a car, but I don't need 2 cars, so I sold the other. Don't take it without permission. Give it back. We want the money for the car you sold, they said, but I don't need to give it to you. It's mine. I'm moving out, so I'm bringing it with me. I was just lending it to Mom. I didn't tell them my new address because I knew they'll come and beg. The SOS came the next month. I honestly thought that they could keep it up a bit longer, but I heard that the house was a disaster. First of all, they can't pay Mom's debts. The 3 of them thought they could use my car, so they have no form of transportation. And the last one is the most stupid of all, but my brother quit his job when they moved. He thought he could live off of his inheritance from Dad. I imagined how hard it would be for someone with a part-time job to support the family of 2 unemployed adults. But I heard that she quit her part-time job because she had no car to get to work. Her workplace was located in part of town where no train or bus service.
Come back home or send money! We can't continue to live like this!
Denise, your mother is saying that she wants to live with you again. Please come back. My brother and his wife begged me.
It's my duty as the eldest to look after our mom!
At 30 years old, you're still depending on your mother. As their calls kept coming, I remembered what they said. I can't, because I'm struggling to make ends meet. It's my first time living alone, so I've got a lot on my plate, I said, and turned them down. None of them were working. Mom said that she was in menopause, while my sister-in-law said that she was depressed, so she doesn't do chores. My brother thinks that chores are for women, but he doesn't do them as well. With 2 children, the house overflowed with garbage in no time. As for me, I gave myself a treat for all my hard work. I had signed a contract for a spacious apartment near the train station, so I was already having a blast the day I moved in. When I was living at my parents' house, I had to put up with this and that. The reason why I didn't live alone after graduating was that my dad didn't let me. I knew he was just using me to secure a bank account, but I was happy because it felt like I was finally receiving the love I hadn't received in a long time. Even though they were the kind of people who didn't notice when I cut my wrist or had insomnia, I knew that they didn't care about me at all. But why did I try to hold on? So stupid. I also welcome a cat that I've always wanted, but couldn't because Mom had a pet allergy. Living alone is the best. I was finally able to stretch my wings for the first time in forever. I was saving up for my mom's retirement, but now I'm thinking of saving more to buy my own house. From now on, I won't do anything for them. I will live my life for myself and my cat. In the early days of our marriage, my husband Jethro and I had difficulty having children. On top of that, when Jethro is away, my mother-in-law preaches to me about making a baby. When Jethro is here, he stops her, but when only my brother-in-law Bruce is around, she says all kinds of things. Bruce is always silent. He never butts in. What's the point of having a period? I was quite shocked that I couldn't make a baby. I stood there unintentionally as if I was denied of being a woman. But then Bruce came. I felt embarrassed thinking that he might have heard our conversation. Then he said,
Mom, you, like this? You're the reason why I can't get married. Don't you get it?
My mother-in-law and I were shocked by his words since he's usually silent.
What are you saying?
Then he looked at me and said,
Why don't you go home if you don't like it here? What's my brother doing? I've always thought this, but do you really need to put up with her? I didn't want to interfere, so I didn't say anything until now, but if you really don't like her, why don't you just ignore her and leave her to a place where you won't get hurt?
He said he packed my things and kindly gave them to me.
You need to protect yourself. To me, if my brother doesn't cooperate.
He said bluntly, just as he always does. Not that Jethro was unreliable. but Bruce's words made me feel better. Then I thought, it's okay to run away. So I decided to go to my parents' house for a while. Then, that night, Jethro rushed to my parents' house. It seemed like Jethro heard what happened from his brother and apologized to my parents. Jethro came for you. How about you go back? If you ever have a hard time again, you can come back anytime. So I decided to go back home with Jethro. When we arrived, he scolded his mother. She got scared when her son, who is usually silent, got mad. In addition to that, Jethro scolded her in a loud, thunderous voice. Because of that, she apologized to me repeatedly.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Bruce told Jethro about things that their mother said to me.
If you ever do that again, I will break relations with you. I can even do it now.
Please forgive me. I beg you.
When I came back from my parents' house, Bruce said to me,
I'm clumsy, and unlike my brother, I'm not good at showing emotions or being nice like him, so I can't protect my wife.
From my perspective, he's silent and blunt. That's why, at first, I thought he was not interested in me at all. But when I learned that he is kind, I felt happy. Then he said to Jethro,
I know you think you're protecting her too, but you're still naive. You should be more careful.
His brother scolded him. That's why, after his mother's ruckus, when we were left alone, my Jethro apologized to me. But it wasn't like I told him everything I hated about his mother, and it's normal to tell someone who wasn't there when the incident took place, so I'm sorry too. We're a couple, so we need to talk and communicate better.
Yes, about what happened. I wanted to help you instead of my brother rescuing you. That's why you need to tell me if something ever happens again.
Okay. Then Jethro hugged me. I was facing it alone. But now that I know I have people I can rely on, I felt better. The next day, knowing that my mother-in-law stopped harassing me thanks to my Bruce, I wanted to show my gratitude to him. So I suggested that the three of us, Jethro and him, go out to eat. Jethro feels indebted to his brother.
With my big bro?
But he considered my thoughts and we decided to go. Bruce doesn't say much, but in the meantime, we went to the restaurant. What would you like to have?
I'll have...
Then, out of nowhere, my sister, who is 2 years younger than me, showed up.
You're here too? Oh, hi!
Yeah, we wanted to show our gratitude.
Hello, Shelly. You're here too?
Yeah, with a friend. Who is he?
Haven't you two met before? He's my older brother.
Then, Shelley looked Bruce up close.
You're so handsome.
Shelley is the type who thinks out loud and is an honest person. That day, Bruce was pulling back a bit. I was surprised when Shelley asked for his number. Bruce's bluntness is second nature, and even though I've been living with him, I still can't get used to it. So I thought that she can't make him like her, and she'll eventually give up. But Shelley patiently followed her strategy, and within 3 months, Bruce fell in love with her. So, how did Shelley make him fall for her? She started coming to our house to see Bruce, and whenever she came, Shelley completely ignored my mother-in-law's personality that I had so much trouble with.
What are you wearing? It's too flashy.
Huh? This outfit isn't style. You're a woman too, so you should dress up a bit too. How about I buy some clothes for you next time?
No, thanks.
It seemed like Bruce liked how his mother couldn't compete with Shelley. Besides, Bruce mentioned that he's clumsy, so he can't put his feelings into words. He also said that you should protect yourself. Bruce doesn't talk much, and Shelley talks a lot, but he doesn't mind. It seems like they're communicating well that way. Whenever Jethro sees Shelley,
Shelly is amazing. She's making my brother laugh.
she was the kind of girl who could capture people's heart in a flash, but I never thought that she would be able to conquer Bruce's heart. I was so troubled with my mother-in-law, but with Bruce's words, she had become less sarcastic and her existence has become smaller. On top of that, she is still completely defeated by Shelley, making her existence even smaller. I hope she stays that way. By the way, Jethro was thinking about living separate from his mother because of the incident. As for Bruce, Shelley said she wanted to be with him, so they decided to move too. Because of that, my mother-in-law is about to be living alone, so she tried to get on our good side. But we knew what she was trying to do. Half a year later, we all moved out and are now living new lives. What surprised me the most when we got moved out was that Bruce, who used to say that he won't get married because of his mother, got married to my sister. What surprised me next was that the pregnancy that had troubled me so much when I was living at my in-laws' house was fulfilled right after we moved out. When I went to the hospital for a pregnancy test, the doctor told us, "Based on the test, the hormones are now balanced thanks to the release of stress." Of course, Jethro was overjoyed and reflected on how stressed I was living with his mother. Honestly, thanks to Shelley, she saved me from my mother-in-law and lessened my stress levels. But after we moved out, the stress was completely gone. By the way, my mother-in-law, who is now living alone, is depressed and finally learned how important family is. For some reason, she thinks that she'll never win when it comes to Shelley, so she calls me.
How are you, Cherry?
And asked me to visit her. Knowing that I got pregnant, she also said that she was excited to see her grandchild. But the next time I go to my in-laws' house, I'm thinking of bringing Shelley with me. I'm excited to see the expression on my mother-in-law's face when she sees Shelley.
It was something I experienced during my lunch break. Before I start, let me tell you about myself. I'm a big man. I mean, physically big. I'm not sumo big, but more like a chubby man. I always liked eating ever since I was a child. I especially like greasy noodles, so I ate it a lot, even at home. One day, I went to my favorite noodle cafe for lunch. I go there twice a week. The noodle place has an owner in his 50s, and it's famous for a delicious soup that they created. So during lunch hour, it was always busy. That particular day, to avoid the busiest hour, I went there just past 1 o'clock. But even then, it was still busy.
Welcome! Oh, nice to see you again.
Is there a seat available for me?
Of course. I have kept a seat at the counter for you.
I didn't realize till then, but I must have been going there on the same day at the same time. So the owner knew the days that I visit his place. It has become my routine. Soon as I sat down, I placed my order as I knew what I wanted to eat already. Just then, I heard a man mumbling something. He was sitting right next to me. I glanced at him and noticed that he was complaining about someone while smoking at the same time.
I'll kill him! Die already! If only he was gone.
I wondered what happened for this man to say something like that, but kept ignoring him. Then my noodles arrived, and so I started to eat. As I was picking up my chopsticks and was about to dig into the piping hot noodles, the hairy hand of the man next to me came between me and my noodles. My head was filled with questions, but I thought maybe he wanted to get something on the counter. But he didn't. As soon as his hand pulled away, I was stunned by what I saw. I was so shocked I couldn't take my eyes off my noodles for a while. There it was. A cigarette butt was floating right in the middle of my noodles. Whoa, what the? I was so upset that I couldn't even speak properly.
I couldn't find an ashtray.
The man was saying it to me with a smirk. What the heck? There's an ashtray right in front of you.
Oh, yeah? I didn't see that.
You didn't see it? You already smoked one, so you knew where it was. Why the heck did you do that?
Huh? You annoying punk! Shut your mouth! You think you could talk to me like that?
What? I was fuming so much I couldn't say anything. I felt my blood boiling. Then the owner who saw everything came over.
I'm sorry this has happened. I'll get you a new lunch.
He was apologetic and tried to calm me down. Then he turned around to the man next to me.
Hey, you! Get out from my shop right this moment! Never come back here! You are banned! What? Why am I the one who needs to get out? It's this chubby punk's fault, sitting right next to me eating noodles. It's only a cigarette butt. This pig is obviously not man enough. He's a pig, and pigs are supposed to eat any old garbage, so don't act like a man!
To my shame, I had never gotten angry, no matter how unfair the situation was. As I said, I'm a pretty big guy, so often kids picked on and made fun of me, but I just took it without even talking back. Sometimes my friends get so frustrated and tell me to get angry. I was like that, until then. I just completely lost it. I can't even remember what exactly happened. What I remember is that I grabbed the man's head and shoved it into the noodles with the cigarette butt, as the waiter was taking it back to the kitchen. You! Old man! You were man enough to eat the cigarette noodles, right? Eat it! As I was saying this, I pushed his head deeper into the noodle bowl. The man was screaming,
I'm sorry! I was wrong! Spare me, please!
and started to cry. I couldn't calm down, so I wanted to say, Old man, you called these noodles any old garbage, but you made these noodles garbage! The owner made this food with such care! Did you ever think of that? Huh? I was shouting like crazy.
Ah! I'm so sorry!
Do you think saying sorry is enough? Eat it now! I picked up some of the noodles and the cigarette butt with some chopsticks and tried to shove them into his mouth.
Ouch! It's hot! Hot! I can't! I really can't! I'm sorry! I'm sorry!
He kept saying he was sorry and dropped to the floor. That was the time I felt piercing gazes from people. I regained my senses. After that, the man told us while crying that
I was upset over something at work. That's why I did it.
So in summary, what he told us is that one of his coworkers is big and that big guy kept picking on it. On that day, the big guy was particularly horrible to him, so he was very upset. When he saw me sitting next to him, also a big guy, I reminded him of the horrible coworker. That's why he did it. I couldn't believe his excuses. He wasted a good bowl of noodles made to perfection by the chef for such an idiotic reason. When I thought about it, I couldn't keep calm. I shouted, Who cares about your excuses? You are so pathetic doing things like this. That's why your coworker laughs at you. If you can't stop yourself doing stupid things like this, just eat a sandwich or something in your office. Never eat out again. The next thing I knew was the man got a $10 bill, put it on the counter, and ran out the cafe, crying and shouting,
Keep the change!
No one spoke a word as he fled. I felt somewhat embarrassed, so ate a new bowl of noodles they brought out as quickly as possible. When I finished and went to pay, the owner said to me,
It's on us. I'm sorry about that today, but please come back again.
I can't accept that. I had lots to eat, and you gave me extra stuff, too.
What you did was great. And plus, you always help us bringing in more customers.
I'm relieved to hear that, but what do you mean I helped bring in more customers? I really didn't know what he meant, so he explained it to me that people look at the way I eat the noodles, it makes them look so delicious. That's why they always led me to a seat where people could see me from the outside. The result was great. More customers were coming in after seeing me eat, and their sales went up a lot.
You are more effective than any marketing strategies. Thank you very much.
The owner was so convinced of that. That made me laugh so much. It was cool that I was of some use to my favorite noodle place.
So as a token apology for what happened today, and as thanks for your customer bringing eating display, please accept a free lunch.
Well, if that's the case, I gladly accept the offer. Thank you very much. Then I left the shop. Ever since that incident, every time I go there, the owner gives me free stuff as tokens of apology and thanks. I naturally eat it all, and as a result, I went from chubby to, well, even chubbier.
I had a girlfriend when I was in high school. We had a lot of fun back then, and she always hung out at my home. My brother was home one day when she came, so I introduced her to my brother. One day my girlfriend suddenly told me,
I think I like your brother more, so I'm breaking up with you.
I was shocked at what she said. So I asked her, What do you like about my brother? She said,
I like his aggressive attitude and the fact that he's working.
I was a poor student at the time and couldn't really afford the expenses of having a girlfriend, so after we broke up as she wished, I actually had a sense of relief. Take care of her. I sent my brother a message after the breakup. He replied, "I'm sorry, she was hard to resist." According to my ex-girlfriend, my brother was hitting on her aggressively, but at the same time, my brother claimed that my ex-girlfriend seduced him. I had no idea who was telling the truth. Maybe my ex-girlfriend had already been flirting with my brother for a while before we broke up. She probably already made the decision the first time they met. Since then, I barely talked to my brother and stopped contacting my ex-girlfriend. Soon after, I graduated high school. I went to college, graduated, and found a job. By the time I started working, I already forgot about what had happened in the past. But one day, my mom told me that my brother and ex-girlfriend were going to get married. Because we're family, I didn't find it strange that I heard it from my parents instead of my brother. Before my ex-girlfriend came to my parents' home for the first time with my brother, she called me and reminded me.
Remember not to mention to your parents that we used to date.
Back in high school, my parents were never there when I brought my ex-girlfriend home. Both of them had work and rarely came home before 7, so they'd never met her. That's why my parents had no idea that my brother's future wife used to be my girlfriend in high school. I decided to congratulate my brother and ex-girlfriend like nothing had happened, so I said, "Don't worry, I won't say anything to my parents."
Yeah, I trust you won't ruin the atmosphere. You were such a virgin and didn't even sleep with me when we were dating. But if you want, I don't mind sleeping with you now.
My ex-girlfriend replied. She obviously was trying to seduce me, but I was not interested at all. So I replied like an emotionless robot, "No thank you."
Did you get excited? I wonder why you never tried anything back then.
She kept on talking, so I got annoyed and said, "Is that all? I have to go now. See you tomorrow." And I hung up. I was already certain that my ex-girlfriend was a slut when she broke up with me and started dating my brother. After the phone call, I confirmed she was also an idiot to think it was a good idea to seduce me the day before meeting my family. The next day, I didn't mention anything about our past when the two families met. Everything went smoothly. However, my ex-girlfriend started to message me and ask me out. I didn't reply, so she called me instead.
Aren't you lonely and bored? Let's have some fun. I'll be your sister-in-law soon. Just do as I say.
She kept on contacting me. Maybe she was hitting on me because she started to regret breaking up with me. I've always been good at studying. I'm working now at one of the biggest companies in the world after graduating from a top college. But my brother just got demoted at work after making a scene fighting with his colleague. So his salary became less than half of mine. My ex-girlfriend must have heard it from my parents. I didn't want to stir things up before the wedding, so I blocked her number. My brother came to ask me one day, "Is it true that you're hitting on my girlfriend?" So I showed him the chat history between my ex-girlfriend and me. I also told him I had blocked her. And I tried to convince my brother that I had absolutely no interest in her. Then my brother started to laugh triumphantly at me. No wonder she chose me over you. You don't even have the guts to try anything. That's why she's marrying me instead of you. You know what? I'll let you have some fun with her if you're bold enough, loser. I tried to stay calm before their wedding, but my brother wouldn't stop making fun of me. I was irritated and furious. My brother had always been unhappy that I worked at a bigger company and got a bigger salary. You got hired by pure luck, but you won't always be so lucky. Soon enough, they'll see how incompetent and useless you are and fire you right away. Seems like he was attacking me to make him feel better about himself and compensate for his incompetence at work. Then my ex-girlfriend invited me again.
Your brother said it's okay. What is there to think about?
My brother said, "I know you won't do anything." And he kept mocking me for being a coward. I lost my feelings for my ex-girlfriend a long time ago, but for some reason, she still thought I was interested in her. But from my brother's point of view, he thought it was because I was too gutless to make a move. You're a good brother. I decided to let you be my best man and give a speech at my wedding. He even asked me to give a wedding speech at the reception. I gladly accepted the offer. When their wedding started, my brother and my ex-girlfriend were at their peak of excitement. My ex-girlfriend sent me a message before the wedding and said,
I used to wish I could wear a wedding dress like this at our wedding.
But I ignored her. When it was time to give my speech, I went up there and started speaking. I talked about how they met each other because of me, and I talked about how my brother stole my ex-girlfriend from me. Then I explained the reason she broke up with me was that my brother had more money than I did at the time. But then she told me not to tell both families that we used to date. She tried to seduce me many times after they decided to get married, and told me I could do whatever I wanted with her as long as I kept my mouth shut. And then I told everyone that my brother knew about it and allowed it all along. My brother and ex-girlfriend went crazy and tried to stop me halfway through my speech. So I put our chat history on the big screen for everyone to see. Then I played the recordings of my brother laughing at me for being a coward. The reception turned into total chaos after my speech. My ex-girlfriend lowered her head and covered her ears. My brother stood up and tried to get me to stop talking, but I continued to finish my speech. I'm relieved to finally tell the thing I wanted to tell. Wishing you a long and happy marriage. I left the wedding and went home after. Of course, my parents were angry at me for ruining my brother's wedding, but what my brother and ex-girlfriend did infuriated them more. My parents made my brother cancel their marriage after learning about the truth. My ex-girlfriend's parents, who were also at the wedding, were so embarrassed when they heard their daughter try to seduce the groom's brother. Of course, my brother and ex-girlfriend also invited people from their workplaces. After I exposed their secrets in front of them, my brother and ex-girlfriend could no longer face their colleagues at work. Soon enough, other local companies also heard stories about my brother. I can only imagine how hard it was for him to find a new job. He ended up working part-time and living paycheck to paycheck. My parents didn't want to see him anymore, so he rented a tiny studio to live by himself. As for my ex-girlfriend, she also moved out of her parents' home after they cut ties with her. All the guests at the reception would have already figured she was a slut. Now everyone knows she's the kind of woman who hits on anything that moves. I couldn't stay in my hometown anymore, so I asked my company to transfer me to another location. Luckily, there happened to be an opening in another city, so I quickly packed my things and moved there. I met a woman in the new city and started going out with her. 3 years later, we decided to get married and had a small wedding at the city hall. My wife is not from a wealthy family. Her mother was so happy, she cried tears of joy seeing her daughter in a wedding dress. I haven't been back to my hometown since my brother's wedding. Instead, I live happily with my wife, daughter, and in-laws in our new home. I couldn't be more content with my life now.
My husband took my daughter away from me by working with my in-laws, who have always bullied me. In order to let my husband remarry a woman better than me, they kicked my son and me out of the house penniless. My in-laws started brainwashing my daughter in kindergarten. By the time they kicked my son and me out, my daughter was calling me a pig and told others I was the housemaid. She had never once called me mom. She kept laughing at me with my in-laws, even on the day I left. I'm her mother and gave birth to her, but I could no longer see her as my lovely daughter because she never stopped scolding and mocking me with my in-laws. I agreed right away when my husband said he was going to get full custody of our daughter. My son was born to my husband's lover, and my family made sure he knew by constantly making fun of him. So when I left, he cried. He said he wanted to go with me, and even promised to work hard after graduating middle school. My son knew there was no place for him at home. It was evident when my husband asked our daughter to stay with them, but didn't say a word to my son. Even though I didn't give birth to my son, I couldn't leave him after he begged me to take him away. Also, I basically raised him after his mother abandoned him after birth, so it seemed like a natural decision to take him with me. After my son entered middle school, he worked part-time in the early morning to bring extra money into the household. He tried his best to be kind and helpful. I don't know if it was because he was worried I'd also abandon him. He worked hard and made $100 per month. Later, when he was in high school, he worked diligently and made about $800 a month. Of course, I also worked hard. With our paychecks combined, we were living a comfortable life. My son has always been considerate and supportive since we moved out. He would always say,
"I'll make our life better in the future, Mom."
and study hard when he was not working. Finally, he was accepted to university and got a full scholarship to cover his tuition. When he told me he had been accepted, I said, "Congratulations! I'm so proud of you!" And he smiled happily. After graduating from university, he found a job at a big company. We were still living together, but our life became a lot easier after my son started working. His salary became 3 times more than when he was working part-time. My son has been working hard since he was a teenager, probably due to his fear of being abandoned again. Now that he can survive on his own, so I told him, "It's time for you to move out. You should have your own life and live wherever and however you want." He replied,
What are you talking about? I can't be happier with my life, and I'm fine living like this.
I was actually happy to hear him say that. He tried so hard since he was young to not be abandoned. Now he's all grown up, and we've always lived together. Even though we're not related by blood, he has become my real son. Because of that, I was also afraid one day he'd tell me he didn't need me anymore. One day, my son brought home the girl he was dating and introduced her to me.
Mom, this is my girlfriend, Sheila.
"Hi, I'm Sheila. Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you." Sheila is a lovely girl. She always brought my favorite desserts when she came to visit. "You don't have to keep bringing gifts when you come over." "Oh, don't worry. My friend works at a bakery, and she always gives me a discount." And she would answer me with a silly smile. "Oh, my friend gave me 3 tickets to a hot spring resort. Let's go together." "I'm okay. You two should go." "Come with us. Hot springs are so relaxing. It's so nice and relaxing there." She's very good at persuading me. My son also never stops asking till I agree to join them. Sheila would also message me about when they got into a fight. Sometimes I'd join her and scold my son. Some other times I'd act as her mediator. It didn't take long for them to get married. When they married, they asked me, "How about we live together?"
Yeah, Mom, let's live together.
As happy as I was to hear them say that, I decided to turn down their offer. "I won't be living with you. You've been supportive ever since you were young. We went through tough times together, and I probably wouldn't even be alive now without you. Now it's time for you to do your best to support Sheila. You'll understand why when you have your own kids one day."
But
"You helped me enough. Thanks to you, I can live a decent life now, so don't worry about me." I finally convinced them both. Sheila also heard from my son about what happened when I got divorced. It's not common for a mother to raise her husband's child with another woman. But I raised my son and kept him with me even after we were kicked out. My son knew how much I had to do to raise him alone. After Sheila heard our story, she cried and thanked me. "I wouldn't have met him if you didn't take him with you. Thank you for so much for everything you did." We had a few more discussions afterward, and I decided I would move to a house close to their home so we could visit each other often. So our new life started. My son and I began to live close but separately. Sheila still comes over to my house often. "Let's have lunch together." "Thanks, but you really don't have to worry about me." "It's nothing. Your son's at work and eating lunch alone at home is just too boring. So why don't we chat and have a nice lunch together?" I was happy to see Sheila, so we talked for hours. Then I suddenly got a phone call from my daughter. I hadn't seen her since I moved out. I still had the same number when I moved out, but I was surprised she would call me. "Hi, Mom. Remember me?" "Yeah, I do. But why are you calling?" "I want to come live with you. I want to get out of this house. Where do you live now? Are you still living with my brother? It'd be fun if we could all live together." I don't know why my daughter called me out of the blue, and I couldn't understand what she was talking about. Her call only brought back terrible memories. The way she used to mock and laugh at me all came back to my mind. "We'll not live together. You've never considered me your mother. How can you ask me that now?" "That's why I called you. I wanted to start over. Why are you not happy that I called you? How can you call yourself a mother?" "You mocked and scolded me with the people from that house. You didn't even try to stop me when you know when you knew I was leaving. All of you laughed at us when we left. I quit being your mother at that moment. By the way, I have a daughter now.
What? You got remarried! That's even better. I'd love to meet my stepfather. What's he like? Is he rich?
There's no stepfather. I'm talking about my son's wife. She's my only daughter now.
Excuse me? I'm your real daughter. My brother's just a child Dad had with another woman. He's a stranger. Are you gonna turn your back on your real daughter? It's your responsibility to help your daughter.
She hasn't changed a bit since I left. I was disappointed in my daughter back then, but my emotions toward her are even colder now. I couldn't care less about blood. You didn't consider me your mother when I was thrown out like garbage, but my son and I worked hard to make a life for ourselves. He's my true family. You made your choice when you decided to stay with that man, so you're free to do whatever you want. It's not my concern, and please don't ever contact me again. Then I hung up. I felt so good after saying what I always wanted to say. My daughter didn't explain why she called me all of a sudden, so I contacted one of the few relatives I stayed in touch with. My ex-husband remarried a woman who looked like she would be a better wife. However, that woman kept all my ex-husband's salary to herself and neglected my daughter because they were unrelated. Things got worse when my ex-husband and his new wife had a son. The whole family started treating my daughter like garbage. However, their marriage didn't last long. The woman cheated on my ex-husband and left with their son. My ex-husband had to deal with all the debts all by himself, and because of the debts, they lived a pretty difficult life. My daughter didn't get to college and struggled to find a job. She overheard my ex-husband and ex-in-laws talking about how my son graduated from university and got hired by a big company. So she thought maybe she wouldn't have to worry about money anymore if she came to live with us. It's true that my daughter and I are related by blood, and my son is an outsider. But I learned that family isn't always blood. I'll always cherish my true family and continue to support my son and our family. My name is Sarah. I married at the age of 26 and had a son. My husband was there with me during the delivery. He was so excited to see the baby.
I'm so proud of you, Sarah! The baby is perfect!
I was happy to hear him say that, and I felt lucky to be married to such a perfect husband. But my happiness didn't last long. A year later, I went back to work after my maternity leave. I used to work full-time. After I returned from maternity leave, I requested to work fewer hours so I could have more time to take care of the baby. My husband helped with simple things around the house and played with the baby while I finished the rest of the housework. He was helpful, but every time he did any small task, he would look like he had accomplished something extraordinary. But he wouldn't do anything more than that. The work my husband helped me with was less than 10% of the things I had to do daily. It's common for the baby to wake up during the night. Recently, the baby cried so much at night, and it took me hours to get him to stop crying. Even after the baby stopped crying, he would stay up and not go back to sleep. If the baby was awake, I also had to stay awake because he would put anything in sight into his mouth. Meanwhile, my husband would be deep asleep in a different room. I was exhausted every day from sleep deprivation after I gave birth. That's why I didn't have the courage to work full-time like before. At first, my husband was very understanding and supportive of my decision. However, he's later started leaving all the housework and childcare duties to me. I was swamped with all the work while he sat there doing nothing. When I asked him, I took our son to the hospital today, so I didn't have time to make dinner. Can we get takeout instead? He replied,
You didn't have time at all? How is it possible? You took a nap, didn't you?
One day, it started raining when I was bathing my son before dinner. My hands were occupied, and I couldn't leave the baby, so I shouted to my husband in the living room, Can you help me bring in the laundry? I'm giving our son a bath right now. But he didn't respond. After I finished bathing my son and went to the living room, I saw my husband using his phone on the sofa. And the laundry outside was already drenched with rain. My husband also didn't care if I had a fever. Even when I was dizzy and shivering with chills, I still had to make dinner for my husband and son and do the dishes afterward. I had nobody to rely on. And my husband and I had different views on how to raise our child. As a result, I was mentally and physically exhausted. Both of my in-laws work. My mother-in-law is a doctor, has her own clinic, and makes quite a lot. I'm a certified bookkeeper, but even when I worked full-time, I could only make about half of what my mother-in-law makes. My husband soon became dissatisfied with my shortened work hours because it lowered my pay.
My mom did housework and raised me while working full-time. Why can't you do the same? Especially when you're working shorter hours than her. If you can't make money, at least do housework well.
My husband forced all the housework and childcare on me. I tried to talk to him, but he didn't want to compromise at all. He said,
Doesn't matter if we have a baby. As a wife, you should always be responsible for household work. Plus, I make more money than you, which means you must listen to me. My mom took care of everything. How can you give up before you try? You should stop making excuses and start doing it. I still can't believe you changed your work schedule. Daycare isn't free, you know. How are we supposed to live a comfortable life if you don't work full-time and earn more salary? Unlike you, my mom returned to work immediately after giving birth to me.
my mother-in-law must be a superwoman, but I'm just an ordinary person, and there's no way I can be like her. I felt like I was going to lose my mind at that point. I decided to talk to my mother-in-law on my off day without telling my husband. I asked her while crying, "How do I become like you? I want to be as efficient as you. Could you tell me what your secret was?" My mother-in-law's eyes widened, and she said,
What? Did he say that? I'm terrible at doing housework. I'm even worse at cooking.
My mother-in-law told me she pretty much only served store-bought food when my husband was young. Even now, my in-laws still mostly eat ready-made food. My mother-in-law would vacuum the house once a week and lightly dust the rest of the time. She would hire professional cleaners to clean the house monthly.
Professional cleaners can do a better and faster job than me. They make the bathroom and kitchen as bright as the new pin.
And if my father-in-law still felt something was not clean enough, my mother-in-law would tell him to clean it himself. Whenever my father-in-law said,
I'm a little hungry,
my mother-in-law would reply,
Make something then. I did laundry often because we wouldn't have things to wear if I didn't, but I would hang most of the clothes on hangers because I didn't want to fold stuff. Ironing shirts was annoying too. So I brought all the shirts to the dry cleaner.
My mother-in-law also hired someone to take care of my husband until he was 9. And she usually wouldn't pick him up until she got off work around 7.
It's impossible to do housework and childcare perfectly when working. I wonder who he has mistaken me for.
My mother-in-law was very confused, so I asked her to talk to my husband later. I sat beside them and listened to their conversation. Then I realized my husband wasn't lying. He genuinely thought my mother-in-law did everything by herself perfectly.
I still hire professional cleaners to clean our house now. Do you want to see the receipts? It was Mrs. Sari who took care of you when you were little and made those homemade snacks for you. I had to work during the day. It was impossible to make snacks for you. In fact, I think I've never made any snacks at home. Maybe I made an instant pudding once, but you can hardly call that homemade. I can't believe you asked Sarah to do all the housework and childcare just because she doesn't earn as much as me. Why don't you do the housework then? You're not making more than I do either. Plus, it was costly to hire someone to get things done. My salary might be high at the time, but there was barely anything left after I paid them.
My mother-in-law scolded my husband. In the end, she said,
The perfect mom in your memory is not the real me. I don't know how you made up that memory, but it's completely false, and I really don't like it.
My husband seemed depressed after hearing what she said. Because I felt like I was about to lose my mind, I moved back to my parents' house and started living separately from my husband.
It must have been very hard for you. Take a good rest for a while.
Okay, thanks, Mom. My mother was heartbroken for me, so she didn't let me help with anything until my condition improved. Finally, I got better and was able to face my son with a smile again. Even though babies couldn't talk, they could sense the feelings of their parents. They'll smile more if the parents smile. and they'll cry if the parents look sad. Maybe I was the cause of my son's intense crying at night. After staying at my parents' home for a while, he hardly cried at night. A month later, he started to sleep soundly at night. My husband called me after 3 months of separation.
It was all my fault! Please come home!
He begged me to move back.
I'll take good care of the baby and do housework properly from now on!
He seemed to be struggling with doing both housework and work by himself. If he has really reflected on his mistakes and is willing to change and start helping around the house, maybe I can give him another chance and get back with him again.
Oh, let's go to your favorite restaurant together! Didn't you say you wanted to watch? I'll buy one for you! Come home soon!
My husband is trying everything to get me back, so I decided to wait a bit longer. I'll wait till the best gift comes.
Megan Hill. I named my daughter Electra because I wanted her to be outgoing and beautiful. Just name, she's always smiling and full of energy. Whenever my family had a get-together, she was the center of attention and the mood maker. My daughter is 3 years older than her little brother and always looks after him. She made many friends and took the initiative to study after she entered elementary school, and her teachers also praised her. Electra has always been a happy child, but things changed after she turned 8. She started to vomit uncontrollably and repeatedly. We immediately took Electra to the hospital and discovered tumors in her brain. The MRI images showed 2 3-centimeter tumors. Even I could see the tumors on the MRI. I couldn't believe the results and fainted from the shock. Electra immediately underwent an operation to remove the tumors and seemed to get better after the surgery. However, while we struggled to fight Electra's cancer, her doctor told us how long she might live with cancer. I was struck with the harsh reality and overwhelmed with sorrow, but I had to swallow my tears for my beloved daughter. I decided I'd let Electra do what she loves to do for the remainder of her time. Electra, what do you want to do most right now? Electra said she wanted to go to school, hang out with friends, and study. Then she said she wanted to play with her brother and dad in the pool after school. And for the evening, she wanted all of us to play cards together. All she wished for was an ordinary life. The kind of ordinary life everyone else is living. After spending a long time in the hospital, even the most ordinary life looked like something special to her. So we spoke with the doctor about taking her home and promised to bring her back to the hospital immediately if anything was wrong. Electra needed to keep taking her cancer drugs at home, so her doctor switched her drugs to the ones with fewer side effects. Finally, we brought her home after ensuring everything was fully prepared. After being hospitalized for half a year, Electra started studying as soon as she got home because she wanted to catch up with what she had missed. I tried to help her as much as I could when she had questions, and my husband also helped her with her studies after coming home from work. Electra looked healthy after returning home, but considering the stress and possible dangers at school, she was still in no condition to go back to school. Going to the park became Electra's daily routine ever since she came home. Electra was bright and lively regardless, and her eyes lit up with every discovery she made in ordinary things. One day, because the hospital was too far, 3 of Electra's friends came to our home to visit her with their moms. But one of the moms was the most hostile persons I've ever met. The child, Melanie Moyer, was calm and friendly, but her mom was the opposite. As soon as Melanie's mom saw my daughter, she said,
How much time do you have? Are you bald? I want to touch it if you are.
She then grabbed Electra's hand and poked her cheeks. The other 2 moms' faces turned pale after seeing what Melanie's mom did. One of the moms said, We can always hang out with Electra after she fully recovers, right? She tried to change the topic, but Melanie's mom ignored her. She turned to her daughter and said,
You should to Electra as much as possible before it's too late.
Melanie replied.
Okay, I'll go talk to her.
Then she went inside Electra's room to play with her. The moms who stayed in the living room all felt awkward, but not Melanie's mom. She disregarded the uncomfortable atmosphere and kept eating the cookies on the coffee table. She continued to talk while eating. We could even see the food in her mouth.
Electra is so unfortunate.
What? I was astonished at her rudeness, so I asked her, "What do you mean by unfortunate?"
Well, there's nothing you can do when she's doomed, right? It's fate. Life and death are inseparable. In Electra's case, she just had bad luck. Maybe she's being punished for something she did in her previous life, you know?
She replied with a serious look on her face. I couldn't tolerate her anymore. Hey, that's enough! Before I could finish my sentence, Electra and her friends returned to the living room. One of the kids showed us Electra's notebook and said,
Mom, Electra is working hard. She studies a lot, even when she's at home.
I couldn't lose my temper or ask Melanie's mom to leave in front of the kids, so I tried my best to remain calm and managed to make a smile. But then, Melanie's mom said,
What? Why are you studying, Electra? Did your mom make you study? You can't do that, Miss Hill. You should let her do whatever she wants, so she has no regrets.
Is stupid? How could she even say that in front of my daughter? The whole family, all our relatives, and Electra herself are fully committed to beating cancer. At moment, Melanie's mom looked like a demon from hell. The other two moms also couldn't stand her anymore. Oh, I just remembered. I have an appointment after. Shall we go, Miss Moyer? They to urge Melanie's mom to leave with them. I wanted to kick her out, throw salt on her, and tell her, don't ever come back again. She was so offensive and hurtful. Where has her common sense gone? In the 34 years of my life, I never met anyone as insensitive as Melanie's mom. I felt like the blood was drained from my brain, and my mind went blank. But then...
Maybe you misunderstood something, Miss Moyer.
Electra suddenly spoke.
What do you mean, Electra? I'm studying. You love studying? I've never seen a kid who loves to study. You don't have to tell such an obvious lie. Your mother's forcing you to study, isn't she? Mother once told me, I'll meet lots of people when I grow up. Among those people, some will always think differently from me. So, it'll be helpful to be more knowledgeable when communicating with them. I love hanging out with people, and that's why I want to study more. Maybe you should do the same, Miss Moyer. Huh? Why should I study more? You look like you're having fun hanging out with the others.
I burst out laughing after hearing what Electra said. Melanie's mom turned red and said,
Melanie, we're leaving. But I want to play with everyone.
Melanie wanted to stay longer, but her mom dragged her away regardless. As they walked to the door, in a voice loud enough for me to hear, Melanie's mom said,
You gotta live your life doing whatever you like so you won't have any regrets, Melanie. If you study all the time and overuse your brain, you might get tumors just like Electra.
She sounded pissed. What happened at my house that day spread fast among the moms. But Melanie's mom still didn't seem to understand what she did wrong. Instead, she badmouthed my daughter and me in front of other moms. Of course, nobody believed or wanted to listen to her. Also, our family moved to a new home near Electra's hospital after that, so it didn't matter anymore. Without empathy or common sense, she's far from a qualifiable mother. That's my honest opinion of her. 10 years later.
Mom, I got accepted!
Wow, congratulations!
Are you tearing up, Mom?
I'm not. Come home quickly. I made your favorite apple pie.
Yay!
For a while, Electra had to use morphine for the pain, but she's turning 18 this year. Even the doctor was surprised to find her cancer in remission. With the vision to help children with cancer, she applied for medical school and got accepted. As for Melanie, she listened to her mom and did what she was taught. As a result of doing whatever she liked and living with no regrets, she got hooked on video games in the latter half of elementary school. She could no longer keep up with her studies and refused to attend school. She continued to refuse to study even after entering middle school, according to one of my mom friends who walked past their house.
Melanie, stop playing video games and start studying!
Melanie's mom echoed in their house. Maybe she's the one regretting it now.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.